Well, hey, thanks so much for joining us on the Worshipology podcast. This is a conversation all about living and leading worship. And dude, I just recently got connected to David Curran through our friend Matt Podesla. David, say what's up, man.
What's up, everybody? Matt is the best person and most well-connected person I've ever.
No one ever has anything bad to say about Matt Podesla. That's the truth, man.
No,
But
he's great.
David, you've played bass for, I mean, my goodness, the list is insane. Lauren Daigle, Elevation, Phil Wickham, On the Road with Brandon Lake. Your tone is insane. I just saw some spicy clips on Instagram, man. I definitely, like, we're going to get into all this stuff. He's making, resource bundle packs for bass players, and just been doing this a while. But, man, just for our listeners, David, just tell us a little bit about your story, man. Like, how did you get involved from A to B, playing bass and doing all this incredible stuff, man?
Yeah. It's kind of a wild story. I was born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Oh, nice.
So that's kind of how I got my start at Elevation. Growing up, it was just weirdly to say, it was just like it was a smaller growing church at the time that actually started out of my high school. So,
no way.
Yeah, it was the first campus that they ever launched. It was just out of my high school auditorium, and it was always this kind of growing church. And it was a lot of I just remember being in high school and seeing kids wearing the t-shirts and stuff, being like that, they didn't used to go to church, but hey, there's a church at our school. Let's, check it out. And so eventually after I graduated high school, I was, playing music. I really wanted to keep playing music, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do, go to college. I auditioned for Liberty's band.
Oh yeah.
didn't make the cut.
Really?
It was yeah. It was funny.
Wow.
Very funny story with that interview process, but I was trying to figure out what to do, and
you got that Michael Jordan quality though, because it's I guess the stories go he was cut from his freshman high school team.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I never made the Liberty band. I auditioned. I was right there. They said no, thank you. That's okay, because I was really torn. I didn't know if I wanted to go away to school or stay in Charlotte. So with that opportunity closing, I was like, well, I'll stay in town and I will audition for Elevation's band. And that might have been 2008. Wow. And then I joined the team, but I still was another season of waiting. I waited a whole year before I actually played. I don't know if, I think they jokingly were because I tend to be more of a quiet natured person. I think they were like, oh, we kind of forgot that you were on the roster for so long. It was just kind of
just hiding in the background.
I just would be going to band events. I'd be, and I was like, what am I doing here? No one, they're like, who's this guy? He just keeps coming to these things. And, but I was like, yeah, they'll call me eventually. I made the team. I go to the church, and finally it kind of worked out perfectly. My first full weekend was they were launching their very first, or their main new broadcast campus, which was their main campus for a long time. And they're so it kind of worked out. My first impression being on the team, it was this kind of high stress environment of launching a campus, launching their point-to-point technology. They're like, hey, can you do this? Are you cool? Wow. And it just so happened it was a weekend where every bass player was out of town. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. And then from there, I got, more opportunities, and then ended up becoming the they structured the band where it's we have our main broadcast band that is at the main campus that is a part of the records. And so it was kind of cool. It was awesome. A waiting for so long, and then eventually becoming, I guess, kind of the main bass player for the team, where obviously, yes, the records and playing at the main site, but then also mentoring a lot of the bass players on the team and helping developing the next generation of bass players. They're auditioning, and I'm in the room kind of seeing seeing them and helping them with their sound. And it was kind of surreal with that. And so I was there up until 2017 is when I finally
made. So
made
from 2008 to 2017 at Elevation Church.
Yes, and then I did all the records from. I think the very first one I did was "Only King Forever," and then
Love that song.
Yeah, that was a fun process. Mostly because our whole pre-production was like, Max sat us all down, and then half the songs were just acoustic demos, like voice memos, and it was like, hey, we kind of have a week to create like 15 songs. So it was so that was one of my favorite memories. And then I think the last record I was a part of was There Is a Cloud was I believe that was the last one. So that was like but I think I was in the process of transitioning to Nashville when that record came out.
That's so cool. So you played on Do It Again.
Yes. Yeah.
And I got to ask you this. So, because I play bass, it's like one of my favorite instruments to play.
Don't tell anyone it's the best instrument.
It really is.
We need to keep that on the down low.
It's so fun. You just get to throw in that lick every now and then. It's like, oh, where'd that spice come from, man?
Yeah,
but I got to ask you this because you do this masterfully on a lot of the songs that you play on, where it's like you're kind of just grooving, you're kind of just rolling along, and then it's like, let me just drop this little lick right here. Like, what is it in the process of laying down bass where you know where to go for it, you know when to lay back? What do you, when you're approaching a song, and this is for all the bassists out there, because every now and then we get to have musicians on here that's just like speaking to a very certain thing, and like maybe do that for a second here, like when you're laying down a track or you're playing live, like when do you know, hey, let me put that pedal to the metal?
Yeah, I think when, because I think by the time like we get to the recording process, of like actually recording the song, we've played it so many times.
Yeah.
And I kind of like pay attention. I guess this is mostly speaking to like fills and kind of adding your own voice to a part or something. I kind of take stock in like, there could have been times where I played something, and then after a while, if I get kind of tired of it, or I'm like, I start asking like, if it sounds cool at first, but then when you keep doing it, you start being like, should I really do that? It's like, maybe I kind of take that as like, maybe that's not maybe it's a cool thing. It's a cool thing for me or a cool thing for the instrument, but maybe it's like not the right thing for the song.
Wow.
And so I kind of always tinker around with like, I love space, but I also like finding those little pockets to like maybe put a little thing here just as like just to kind of bump up certain things. And I kind of experiment with like, what's like cool little things that I don't think I'll ever get tired of.
Ooh, that's cool.
So that's kind of my thing, is if I get tired of a fill or tired of a line, I'm like, is this the best line? Because I'm getting tired of it,
Yeah.
So I kind of, with songs like Do It Again and all that kind of stuff, it feels like first of all, there's room to potentially do something interesting. You're not stepping on anyone's toes, but you're still respecting the space of,
that's so
of
good.
Like, because there's a lot of space in that song on the verses, and because the choruses, it's kind of like this constant building thing.
Yeah.
So, you kind of want to respect the build of the choruses, and then the bridge, it's those hits, more space, it's like those big hits and stuff. So it's like, you want to respect the space that's there. Don't detract from the rest of the song, but if you can find little things here and there, go for it.
That's
what I say. Yeah. Ask for something that the drummer for Elevation he's no longer there, but one of the old drummers from Elevation, Lee Worley, he played on all the early records. It's incredible. He always would say, don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness later. Because he was known.
Classic line.
He was so known to, like, all through pre-pro, all through rehearsals, not play it so safe. And then when it came time to go in the red, he just would pull something out that was like, oh, if you had asked, can I do this? You would have been shot down a million times. But it's like, well, I'm in the red now. You can't stop me,
That's awesome.
So it's one of those things too. It's like, just go for it in the moment. Don't try to pre-rehearse it. Just go for it.
I love that, man. Okay, so then take us. What's that next season look like? You were at Elevation for like what 9-10 years.
Yeah.
Then what happened?
it was kind of an interesting transition piece because near the last like 2 years of my time at Elevation, we had started touring as a worship band, specifically on these tours that unfortunately are no longer around, but they were called the Outcry Tour, and they were. I still keep in touch with so many people I met from those tours because it was twice a year. And it felt like I was on them for like 3 years straight. And, and there was always kind of the same group of people. You know, you had Jesus Culture, Bethel, and Hillsong was on there. It just was like this really cool tour that they would do. In Elevation, at the start of it, we were the opener for the night. And so being on that tour so many rounds, getting to meet so many new people. Well, one of the tours, Lauren was the second act. It was like us and then Lauren.
Okay.
And you know, for the bands and those type of like festival type tours where there's so many people, it's like they kind of always had they would find a room that was big enough for like 30 people as like a collective green room. And so throughout the day, you know, I'm getting to meet some of the other band members and I'm getting to know all these other people. And one of the people I got pretty close to on that tour was Lauren's bass player at the time. His name is Peyton. He's awesome. He's also here in Nashville. And, you know, we would just like get into these deep conversations, you know, after lunch, or just like, what do you want to do with your life? Or what do you want to, you know, we're in our like early 20s at this point. And he just was like, you know, I kind of told him, I was like, I think my wife and I kind of want to move to Nashville. Like we, you know, we're toying around with the idea. I know I was loving what I was doing, but I just was wanting to do more of it. I wanted to make myself available to, can I play on more than just one record a year? Can I maybe do more tours? Can I see what that looks like? Yeah. And at the same time too, I felt like I was hitting a ceiling with Elevation where the longer I was going to stay at Elevation, obviously the more they were going to just keep using me. And I was seeing a whole new generation of guys, bass players, that because I was there, they were not getting opportunities.
Wow. And Let me pause you there, because that is so good for our listeners. Like, what was it in you that had that humility on that side of things to be like, hey, I want to pave a way for these guys and give them that opportunity, but then also to have the high faith of being like, well, maybe I am hitting a ceiling and maybe there's more that God has for me in whatever this next season looks like. What is it kind of in you that just hit that moment and recognized it, David?
Well, I think because I was in their shoes before, because of that season of waiting, because of that time where I was just in the congregation, just being a participant there, kind of being like, I know I can do more, you know. I think I was just waiting for my opportunity. Wow. And I was coming to a place where I love what I do. I know I'm meant to do this. I think I can. It's scary to move to, you know, Nashville where everyone's a musician and you're you know, it's literally the epitome of little fish in a big pond. Yeah. And I felt like I was more and more comfortable with like, let's just give it a shot, see what happens. And you know, also seeing the guys that I was in charge of mentoring being like, I really feel like it's also like their time to do stuff. Wow. You know, that's so because cool. I think there's, you know, and I really was like, I don't quite know what this looks like. You know, I don't have a plan, but I just always had that in the back of my mind for like a year. I just was like, I want to give them space as well to do stuff. And so from that headspace, you know, I was talking to Peyton, Lauren Daigle's bass player at the time, and just kind of having conversations like this. And he actually in that meeting, I remember this one specific, afternoon on the Outcry tour where I was just kind of saying kind of the same things I'm saying now. He just was like, well, I've been feeling a pull to step away from Lauren's band. He's like, I'm about to tell them that this is my last tour.
Wow.
I want you to take this.
Whoa.
And he's like, if this is what you're looking for, like an open door, so that you can come into this space and then you can let other people, go into your space and just kind of keep everyone rising. He's like, let's do it. Let's That's just, so cool. I was just like kind of shocked. I was like, wait, really? This is crazy. And then from that tour where I was playing with Elevation, I met Lauren's team, got to know them pretty well. And so after that tour was over, I kind of started transitioning to Lauren's camp, and that was a whole different world too, because now I was so used to being affiliated with a church. Now I'm transitioning to more of a Christian artist. And at the time of Lauren's career, she had her first record was the first one that had just come out. I think it was like the How Can It Be, kind of very much, still very CCM. She was still a new artist, but everyone
hadn't broken on that wide world scene.
Everyone was saying how like, this is crazy. Like she's like going to be like this insane, massive artist and all this. And everyone was like, she's going to be massive. And I just was like, I didn't know really anything about her prior to that tour. And I just was like, I spent a summer transitioning to her team. I was still living in Charlotte at the time.
Okay.
I was trying to do both for a little bit of a season, kind of like a transitional season. And just, that was a little tough, but we were going to move to Nashville in January of 2018, but then decided no, let's just go ahead and do this. Let's just move to Nashville in the end of 2017. We did that. A whole new crew of bass players from Elevation were able to, do a lot of great stuff.
Yeah.
And I kind of moved to Nashville and just kind of started my process of like, all right, I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing now, but here we go.
We're gonna move. What's next?
We're gonna because when I moved to Nashville, Lauren wasn't touring.
Okay.
She was in transition of her second record, which ended up being Look Up Child. Yeah. So
now, before you moved to Nashville, were you kind of doing bass and traveling and doing the music thing full time out of Charlotte?
Yes.
Okay.
That was I had started doing that kind of around 2013. Was like, I'm gonna full time doing music, and I was mostly playing on the weekends at church. But I knew I was like, I love touring, I love recording, I love playing new songs with new people and making new things happen. That's cool. And so I felt like that kind of nudge to come to Nashville felt like this could be the right next step.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. So you get to Nashville, you're trying to figure out, okay, and I lived in Nashville for 10 years. It's kind of this thing where it's like, all right, I go from, I went from Roanoke, Virginia. Yeah, you're a big fish in a small pond. And then it's like, okay, you're in this world of like shake a tree and 30 more talented guitarists fall out of it.
Oh,
yeah.
Like,
what was that season like for you, man, when you first got to Nashville?
It was quiet at first.
Okay.
But I think that was a good thing in a lot of ways. It was another season of waiting. And, it was me just kind of coming to terms with like, all right, I'm not a big fish anymore. Lauren, I'm part of a new team, but Lauren's working on her new record. I'm just going to wait, just going to get to know people, and kind of spent time with my wife, figuring out our new city, kind of dreaming of like, what do we want to make our life? What does our life here look like?
That's cool.
And just getting to know the area, and had some friends also move here from Charlotte too. So it was cool to kind of have some familiarity.
Yeah.
And so that was about a 6-7 month wait. It was kind of a crazy thing because from the How Can It Be era to the Look Up Child area, there was also a lot of turnover in Lauren's band, but I was kind of the holdover of the band members that they decided to keep on for the new, because the two sounds are very different from How Can It Be to Look Up Child. It's very much a whole different sonic difference. And so it was even that switching over gears from playing, your classic worship songs to switching over to like, hey, we're really going to try to push the envelope with sound here. It was me preparing for that was.
So you're playing on the record of that?
No. So actually I hadn't known, at the time, I didn't even know the producer working on it, who is Paul Maybury. We're incredible friends now.
Amazing.
And we've worked together a lot since then, but it was just kind of this, I was literally in this season of the unknown. I didn't know what the album sounded like. I didn't know what am I in for? Her managers are texting me, hey, can you do this? Can you do like all these vague things? I'm just like, yeah, I don't know.
Sure.
Sure. What do you want? I was told the album sounded like a million different things. I just was like, I guess for me, maybe this is bad advice for people. I don't know. I'm of the mindset. There's some people say don't say yes to things that you can't do. And I get that sentiment, but I'm also like, my brain works in a way where I'm like, if they ask, hey, can you play this style? I don't like saying no to that. I want to be like, maybe I'm not super familiar with this style of music, but I'm gonna work on that.
Challenge.
Why not try to learn multiple different styles?
That's cool.
Because that's what I taught my bass. That's the bass players I taught at Elevation. I would encourage them to like, these things that you want to do. I didn't learn that from just this one style of music. I listened to a bunch of different things. Don't be afraid to learn new things.
That's cool.
So
let me dive in a little bit more on that, because I think it's such a cool idea. Not just, obviously, you got an Elevation, which is a multi-site church, but like, and we could dive into some of this more later, but like the idea of not just mentoring, but resourcing musicians that are coming up after you. What did that process kind of look like when you're working with, because worship pastor at a multi-site church myself, I've been at, other churches with more campuses and whatnot. And you're always wanting to, just empower and equip the musicians that are coming up under you, whether they're, coming out of youth group and stepping into main stage kind of opportunities. But what does that relational equity kind of thing look like when you're raising these worship? Is it a weekly touch point? Is it a kind of a lesson based mentorship? What does that look like, David?
Yeah, it was a little different for everyone involved. I remember I'm going back in my time machine in my brain trying to remember like, what did I do exactly?
What was that?
No, I remember it was very different for different musicians. I remember I would occasionally I had like a little group chat, and this was still even before like group chats were a thing. It's so people don't realize that you used to have to text a bunch of people individually to get a group together. That sounds so weird to say that a lot of people don't understand that there wasn't group texting. It would be like some group hangs somewhere. I wanted to help them with any questions they had. Sometimes it was lessons. I'd have them just come to the house. Just come over to my house. If there's a song that you're wanting help with, I'd do that. Occasionally there'd be some weekends where I wouldn't play bass on a weekend, but I would travel to the different campuses and I would just sit and, because I also was like, well, I feel like it was an idea that I actually pitched, I think, to the worship leaders at the time. I remember being like, I feel like a really great way for me to, because what they used to do is they would try to like record everything with these like crappy handheld cameras at the time. Like for whatever reason, no one was sending like iMag video and stuff like that. It just was like these little crappy camcorders of just like, that was their first idea of like, how can I help them? If I can't physically be in the room with them, like how can I help them?
Yep.
In my whole thing with like, recording other bass players for critiques, I never approached it in a sense of like, oh, you're not cutting it. I don't believe in that mentality. I think it was mostly like they're coming to me wanting to get better.
Yeah.
And I want to help steward that, because I kind of just wanted to give them what had been given to me in the past of
wow.
someone more knowledgeable than me helping me get to a next place. Because I always felt like the best way that I was able to grow as a musician was I wanted to be surrounded by people that were way better than me.
That's good.
I didn't want to be the best musician in the room. I felt like that if I do that, I'm just going to flatline. I'm not going to grow. I want to be surrounded by players that know so much more than me, that can play circles around me, and that can help elevate me.
Wow.
And I felt like I was handed that, and it really helped me. And I wanted to do the same for these players that were looking for that same thing. So
that's good.
So what I ended up doing a couple times near the end of my tenure there was I would go to like 3 or 4 instead of playing on a Sunday morning, I'd go to 3 to 4 campuses on a weekend. I'd watch the Saturday night service from the main campus. And then Sunday morning, I'd drive across town to go to this other one. And then for the 11 o'clock, I'd be somewhere else. And then Sunday night, I'd be somewhere else. And because I wanted to, I just wanted to see them like
in their element.
In the element, yeah. If they're like something's not clicking when I'm, they're like I can do it here with you, but then when I'm in the, I'm like just give me an in-ear pack. I'll just listen from the audience and just I'll see what is not transitioning or what is the missing piece. And it was always a state of like, just wanting to help honestly, it was mostly just wanting to help them with their confidence of like, no, you have literally everything that you already have it. I wanted to help them realize it for themselves that they have everything.
Is it like real-time feedback too? Like right after the service, you guys are hanging out afterwards and be like, man, like this was amazing. Like, man, keep going for it. Or
no, it would be like, no. I mean, at the end of the day, I always felt like you guys are crushing it. I would really try to communicate that message to them and then just, maybe like the Tuesday after I'd be like, hey, let's try a couple things here, try to help you feel more confident going into your next weekend. So that honestly was a really beneficial thing. Cause I was like, if you want me to lead these group of guys, I kind of want to see them out in their element,
That's so good. And for worship leaders listening, I would even like say that's such a benefit. Like anytime you can get off the stage and just see your team in their element, man, there's such a benefit to that. Like those are very few and far in between Sundays for me personally, but those are some of my favorite Sundays because you literally get to be a coach and you just get to see your team crushing it and have that opportunity to, cheer from the sidelines or,
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
I'm seeing this common story in your story where it's like you're given an opportunity, you pass the opportunity on. Someone coached you, you're coaching somebody. It's like pay it forward idea that's kind of in your story, David, which is so rad, man.
Yeah, and it's really just helping them build confidence, build their confidence. Maybe they're not used to being on a stage. Maybe they're not used to playing without charts. Yeah. Maybe they work a full-time job during the week and then they're getting in there on Sunday or something, and it's mostly just I wanted to be a resource for them to help them not feel that it feels like so silly to say, but it happens all the time, people being stressed out leading worship.
Wow.
It's like I want to help take that away from you, because that's the last thing that should be happening is you feeling stressed leading worship. Wow. Those things they shouldn't be in the same room.
That's so good, man. Now talk to me a little bit about this confidence thing, because I think this is so key. And same thing. I think so many people can resonate with this message of like, you're working with a lot of people that, this is not their full time. They maybe played guitar in college as a hobby or something. And now like as a church, it's like, man, we want to help give you an opportunity because it helps us, it helps you. It's a growth of gifting in every area, but it is like, there's a lack of confidence in so many church musicians. Why is that, David? And what do you do to kind of just like say, hey man, because I love the word encourage somebody, because you're literally putting courage into someone, like encouraging them. What is it that causes us to be not confident? What is it that causes that stress? And then as somebody who's been there and on the other side coaching that, how do you really encourage somebody that's in that place?
Well, I think, I think the easy answer is we're all creatives at the end of the day. And it feels like the artists struggle, to be self-deprecating in some, it's like if you decided to do anything in the arts, like there's a little bit of self-deprecation in you.
Yeah.
And, but I think that also, I think it's like that critical sense of like, am I good enough? Am I capable of playing a song, you know? And I think what I wanted to help them, like that part of you of being a little critical, that's in all of us. And what I wanted to help them understand is how to use it as, if it's not really ever going to go away, because I can be critical of myself tons of times. And my wife literally rolls her eyes anytime anytime I'm like, oh, I'm so stressed about this. She's like, stop. She's like, you say this all. And I'm like, but I think what I wanted to help them with is like how to use it as a tool for good in some ways. Like it's the cheesy line of like, take what the enemy meant to tear you down, but then like use it for good. And because I think as artists, we always have that artist struggle, but it's like, how do we capitalize on something that's meant to tear us down and make us stronger?
Yeah.
And sometimes it is just reaffirming them, being like, no, you absolutely crushed it. I know all week you were in your head stressed out about this, but sometimes it's as simple as telling them like, incredible job, great job. It is, as long as Jesus is being glorified, like that's actually, if that is the only thing that happens, then that is it.
That's the win.
That is playing right notes doesn't matter if Jesus wasn't in the room,
Wow.
It's just like that. None of that stuff matters. But if your heart is in the right place and like you're actually coming from a place of like worship, this is kind of my offering to you, like, and you are also being a participant in the worship environment, then that's actually your only to-do list.
Wow.
Playing every right note or learning all these parts, like that is way down the list if you can accomplish that first. Wow. And what I wanted to help kind of steer certain musicians was like, hey, let's focus on this thing first. If we can get this, if we can get your, the negative thoughts out of the way, can I do this? Can I, cause that is the thing that distracts you from being able to engage is that thought process. So it's like, let's get that out of the way. Your heart of worship is here.
Wow.
You understand what you're also participating in, and then we can, help you feel confident. Cause I play wrong notes. It's not like God's like, oh my gosh.
I don't believe it, man.
Yeah. Oh, trust me. If a bass player plays a bad note, everyone feels it.
Yeah. That's a frequency you cannot hide, man.
You can't hide it.
Listen, dude, even the idea, I love what you're saying because, it brings a whole new light to that verse. I think it's in 2 Corinthians where it's like, take every thought captive that would exalt itself against the knowledge of Christ. And like some of those thoughts that you need to take captive are those negative thoughts that says, hey, dude, you don't need to have confidence, or you can't do this, or, you're not called to this. And I think, when you can partner that confidence, that it's like a holy confidence, right? It's not a confidence in like, oh, look at me, I'm awesome, but it's a confidence in like, no, dude, you were born for this. Like, we're called to worship, like, and you're helping people engage in a moment in God's presence, man. Like, what better thing can we be doing? And I just think that shows a testament to your heart for musicians and your heart for what it is that you do. Let's fast forward a little bit, man, because like
Yeah.
I want to kind of get to what you're doing today. I mean, yeah, Elevation, Lauren kind of got you into this next phase where it's like not just with churches but with artists, and now you're in Nashville.
That was a whole playing Christian songs in secular environments was definitely it was an experience for sure. It was awesome.
Wow.
It was real. I'll never trade anything for it. That was an incredible time. I mean,
what's a highlight from that time?
I would say the entire year of 2019 was kind of a massive bucket list year of, we started the year. It was the year that Lauren started getting, her songs played on, secular radio.
Right.
And that kind of opened a door for everything from, we played Carnegie Hall in January of 2019, played Radio City that summer. Wow. Played all the late night shows from Jimmy Fallon, Kimmel, Ellen, all those shows.
What's that like? What's that like when you do something like that?
It's
kind of like Pinch Me right now? Or?
It's kind of surreal in some ways, and it's very fascinating to see, depending on what coast of the country you're at, the TV shows operate in very different capacities.
Right. It's like, wait, what time does this air again?
Yeah. So, it's like if you played a show that was filming in the West Coast, it was very chill, very like easiest days ever. And then anytime we had to go to 30 Rock to record, either we did the Tonight Show and then we did Seth Meyers. Those were high stress, like high intensity. Yeah. Even no one would know this, but even on the Tonight Show performance, we played Look Up Child literally before, we're getting rushed on stage, and then we had 30 seconds to like plug in, and like, oh my gosh, we couldn't hear anything in our in-ears. It was just like, what is happening? The keys, the keyboard player couldn't hear anything. And the next thing you know, Jimmy's up on the stage calling, and we're just like, and then all of a sudden, boom, everything pops in our ears. We're like, oh my gosh. And then you have the Roots. Then you have the Roots side stage, or just like literally 10 feet away from us, just kind of watching us. And we're like, this isn't fair. This isn't, this is crazy.
Questlove on those drums, man.
Yeah. It was like, how do we follow the Roots? But I guess we're going to do it. And, but that year was super special. Doing those TV shows, the pop festivals that we played, it was really cool kind of being a light in an environment where people aren't going there looking for hope, but it was cool that we could offer that to to audiences and stuff. It was very, very surreal. Man. So that was super special. And then near the end of 2019, beginning of 2020, I was starting to get a little fried from traveling. We really hit it hard.
Yeah.
And I wanted to potentially take a break from touring and just be home, literally trying to figure out what to do next, because prior to, beginning of 2020 in January, we're getting the schedule for that year, which was going to be like 8 countries and just being gone a lot. And I just was like, I don't know if I can, I was in that place again of like, I don't know if I can do
I got it in me?
Do I have, and thankfully, in a lot of ways, when in March of 2020, when everything shut down, it kind of gave me a great opportunity to, nothing was happening.
Yeah.
No tours, no nothing, everything shut down. Yeah. And I kind of took that as a big opportunity to kind of like, just kind of take a step back and be like, whenever you guys go back out again, I'm going to hang tight. I'd given a lot, being gone, and I wanted to make up for a lot of the time that was missed with me and my wife. And so 2020 through pretty much almost 3 years, I just was home in Nashville. Yeah. Just getting to know people too, because when I moved to Nashville is for Lauren's team. And then I was constantly gone with that team. And so when 2020 happened and I kind of released it and it was just me, I realized I also didn't know a ton of people in Nashville because I was gone
all the time. Yeah.
Gone all the time. And I was like, there's so much other things happening here. And I just don't know really anyone. So I kind of spent those 3 years pretty much from 2020 to 2023, just getting to know people, getting to know other artists and getting asked to play on a lot of records in town. And a lot of it, which was cool. And it's still today, because a lot of things were shut down, a lot of recordings moved remotely.
Yeah.
Which it kind of gave me an opportunity to establish myself. You can, if I'm in town, I'll go to the studio. If I'm on the road or I'm at my house and you just need it from here, happy to do that as well. Because it felt like prior to that, it was either you were touring or you are a studio dog. Like there was no
one or the other.
You had to pick a lane. There was one, if you were traveling, they were like, well, we can't ask him because he's gone all the time.
Wow.
And so it kind of transitioned into this cool thing of like, I can send you tracks from my house if that's what you want to do. Or, if I'm on the road, you really don't do anything when you're touring. The fantasy of doing all the cool stuff, yes, there's cool cities to go visit, but for the most part, it's kind of, you're in, Lincoln, Nebraska, and you're like, I don't have anything to do until 8:00 tonight. I should be doing something. And so, I'll set up shop in the green room and I'll record from there. So it kind of, a lot of the positives from, people trying to, from 2020, people having to think of new ways to create music, the remote side of recording has really jumped off. And, so I kind of spent a lot of
WeTransfer and Dropbox are our best friends now.
Oh, absolutely. Having a good interface is a game changer, but so those 3 years kind of got into more studio world, and I thought I was done touring. I was like, I just was like, I kind of would miss it. I'd be like, man, Wednesday night would roll by, and I was like, it could be kind of nice just to hop on a bus at like 11:30 tonight and just go somewhere. It'd be kind of nice,
Call time.
Not the worst thing, but I thought I was done with it. And then I got a call from Brandon Lake, and he was like, do you want to be in my band? And I was like, and it just so happened, it felt like the perfect thing because I remember I actually met Brandon probably, 10 or 12 years ago. He was a worship leader in Virginia.
Yep. That's when I met him.
Yeah. At a church, Life Point Church. And, I would occasionally go there to help them out. And I remember one of my last times there, they had just hired him. Yeah. He's from Charleston, and I know a lot of people from Seacoast. Yep. And so there's a lot of Charlotte connections with Seacoast Church in Charleston, and that's where I actually met Matt Podesla. That's where I met Micah Nichols. Was at Elevation, but a lot of them would be coming up from Charleston. And so
small world.
Yeah, so when I got the call and they told me who the band was, I was like, it's a group of guys that I've been friends with so long.
That's so cool.
But we've never really done this before.
Yeah.
Brandon didn't have a band, and all he knew what to do is like, let me just call my friends, see if they want to do, at the time it was just 12 shows. It was like, do you just want to do 12 shows? This was like the fall of 2023. It was like, we got 12 shows, turned into 13, and then that turned into a spring tour, and then that turned into arena tours. And it is crazy. It's crazy. It's
been a wild ride, huh?
It kind of has been like a really cool answer to prayer, where I was wanting an opportunity to still record in Nashville, still feel like I had that part of me, because I still love that. Yeah. But I didn't want to be gone like 200 days a year. Yep. And I wanted something that, all of us in the band are married for the most part. They have families. Yeah. And it feels like that's still a big focus. Mm-hmm. We don't want anything to deter that, and they kind of think about that first when they're planning shows and, that's cool. And tours and all this stuff. So it's like, we can still do really cool stuff, but like, it's not to the level that feels like I'm sacrificing my family life.
Wow. That's awesome when you can do something that you love with people in that similar season that not only have the same kind of wiring, but the same kind of priorities. And I'm friends with Andy Cherry. I know he goes out with you guys, and
I've known Andy. I've known Andy since I think we met each other in middle school.
That's
Charlotte.
Awesome, man.
Yeah,
he spent some time here in Virginia, man.
Yeah. He was also one of my groomsmen in my wedding. So it was
that's awesome. So
it was another one of those elements when I found out Andy was in it too, and I was like, this is so surreal.
Well, when you find out you're going to be doing something with like just homies, friends, where it's like this could actually be like really life-giving. And I think that's the thing. Like, I spent 5 or 6 years on the road full time way back in the day, and it can get draining really fast if it's just about the shows, if it's just about the, all of the perceptions that you go into it with. But when you actually get to create and do your calling with people that are just for you and for each other, and it's like an awesome thing. I mean, talk about like the brotherhood that you guys have in the band, and I mean, it just seems to me like from conversations with Andy, and then obviously like knowing some of the things that we see online, where it's like it seems like it's a very close, tight knit band of brothers that you just got something special there.
Yeah, it really does feel, and it's so cliche, but it does feel very different. It feels like a different environment in a lot of ways. Not to say that my previous touring environments were bad or anything like that. It just was, I think, because we have a lot of equity relationally outside of the band.
Wow.
We, a lot of us were just friends first.
Yeah, that's so cool.
And I think that translates really well when we do have to put on like, when we do have to go to work.
Yep.
It's yes, we do work. It wasn't like a band assembled of a bunch of hired guns where it's like, this is just a job. This is just a paycheck. This is just this. It's like, no, actually we're really, really good friends and consider each other brothers, and we really care for each other and how our families are doing. And, even my wife, when she comes out on the road, it just feels like family. That's cool. Anytime the band wives come out, it just feels like everyone is like, yeah, we're all in this. And, unfortunately, that's not always the case,
Yeah.
And it's, every team's different and all that stuff, but I think they really care about families feeling great anytime their husbands are gone. You want traveling is very hard. Yeah. It is not sleeping on you don't sleep on a bus. It's like you close your eyes and, but you wake up in pain. Yeah. You're tired. You don't know where you are. You're in different time zones, everything is trying to make you sick. Wow. On the road.
Is trying to make you sick. I love that.
Absolutely everything from catering to the outdoor environments changing every day. Everything's trying to make you sick and tired. Yeah. And when you come home, you don't want to be completely dead.
Yeah.
That's the last thing that you want to do when you've been gone. My wife hasn't seen me in a while. The last thing I want to do is be an absolute zombie. And it's super helpful when the band environment is great and that we're friends and we feel fulfilled, that we come home, even if, yes, we're physically tired, I don't feel mentally drained.
Yeah.
I feel like, wow, I actually feel like really great.
That's awesome.
Coming home. I don't feel awful. And I think we try to keep each other accountable,
Yeah.
There's guys in the band that's like, hey, let's work out every day, even if it's just for 20 minutes. Let's get a good like pump on, like let's get a sweat going, and then go change and go play a show. It's like that kind of like, let's like not, just like sit around and be bums or whatever. Yeah. It's like there's always either an element of like we're working on stuff together, or we're working out, or like we're going to a coffee shop together or something. There's always that element of that where it feels like, no, I'm actually going to try to take care of myself out here.
Wow. Dude, I mean, I don't know where this hour has gone, but man, like in our few remaining minutes here, bro, I'd love to hear. So 2 things. Number one, let's talk a little bit about just the resources you're creating. And for bass players that are listening, maybe is it kind of streamlined towards bassists, or is there anything guitar as well, or what's that look like, and how can people get a hold of that, David?
No, it's mostly bass. It's all bass.
Crushing it in your number one lane, baby.
I always say it's like, I think what I want to do for other bass players is be a resource, because when I was a kid, I didn't start on guitar. I didn't start on piano or drums. Okay. I actually was like 11 years old, seeing a bass, being like, that's cool. I want to do that. Like, that's like I don't know what my 11-year-old self saw.
Yeah.
It's always, you always hear about like the guitar player had to switch to bass because they didn't have a bass player. But it was like, no, I actually
just play the root notes.
I was one of those weirdos at a young age, was like, oh, that's cool. I want to do that.
Wow.
So growing up learning bass, it always felt like there was this kind of empty area where there was not like a ton of resources available to bass players. Guitar Player magazine had all the stuff for guitar players. It felt like, they had here's all the cool pedal boards in the guitars, and here's how, Eddie Van Halen does this, and all. It's like all my favorite bass players. It felt like it was just harder. It wasn't as accessible. Yes, you had Bass Player magazine, but it just felt like there wasn't
backseat. Yeah,
there wasn't a ton of available resources of like, how do I get this sound, or how does this work? How do I do this? Wow. And so I in all my years of experience, I just decided to I just want to do that for other players, because I didn't have it. So I wanted to provide, a resource for people, or, people send me messages in Instagram, like, what strings do you use, or what is this? I'll just, I don't know. I'll just respond to anybody, try to answer as many questions, because I wanted, when I was a teenager, I wanted to ask, my favorite bass player, like, how did you do this?
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. So I want to try to at least help people.
That's what's so cool about the world today, is like, you can have that accessibility, not to where you're like, man, like, I have no privacy, or I have like, no me time, but it's like, no, like, you can send an Instagram message and somebody will answer that. And it's like, I think that's a cool, like, just kind of side stream, where it's like, even as somebody who's on tour and you're making records still, some 11-year-old out there could send you a message and you'd be like, yeah, absolutely. Like, check out these strings or something. Like, I know you've got the presets, through your website. We're going to post a link, on the show notes to that. Are you making like tutorial videos and stuff like that as well for bass players to be a resource?
So it's funny you asked that, because my wife tells me all the time to like, she's like, what are you doing? Like, anytime I post something, she's like, you're getting all these, so much engagement. You're doing nothing. Like, you should, post more, because I'm never the one to like, I want to be the advocate to help people, but then I always forget to post about it. So I'm trying to do a better job of like just kind of streamlining some things. Obviously I have my website. I do need to update it. That's another thing I always forget to do. I want to, I have my website available at davidcurran.co.
Okay.
Don't go to .com. It's well, you can, but it's like,
it's not where you want to go.
It's like a guy that hasn't updated his website since like 98.
Oh, okay. All right.
And it's like a bunch
like an old
of
school WordPress thing.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's like just like a bunch of like photos of lighthouses.
Oh,
it's kind of.
I didn't know you had that as a side hobby, man.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I've tried to get the .com, but I think I just moved on. But yeah, I have that for the presets, and the biggest thing with the presets is, a lot of people are switching to digital effects. All this. There's so much. It's just, sometimes it can just feel like overwhelming. Like, I don't know how to use this thing. And I made a bunch of stuff to help players. Just like, hey, I spent a lot of time trying to figure out these sounds, and I'm always kind of updating it and trying to find the best ways to recreate what my physical board is and just put it in a preset. If you like this sound, let me try to like get it as close as possible. And there's so many different things. I just try to make it easy on everyone to just try to get good sounds and, help them with stuff. But
that's awesome.
Trying to post more on Instagram. I have the site, and people can always email me or send me a DM. I'm typically, available to answer questions.
Well, we'll definitely post all that stuff in our show notes. And just love your heart, man. Just love hearing your story. And I feel like I might want to switch to like the Joe Rogan style, where it's like the long form podcast, to just kind of sit and like have cups of coffee and like
hour 2. We just start deep diving into stuff.
Then it starts to go loopy in hour 3. But
yeah.
But dude, I love asking this question to everybody that's on the podcast, man. Like, just to kind of close our time out together, man. What's the Lord been speaking to you lately, man? Like, what's just kind of been on repeat in your prayer life? Something that you feel like the Holy Spirit's just resonating in your heart, man.
Well, I think for me, in this time, I am kind of in another semi-season of waiting.
Yeah.
And it's, we have a break. We've had a break from the road since the end of October.
Okay.
And I don't think we really do anything until the end of June. So it's like a 9-month break to just kind of fully reset, be with our families. And in this time, I just was, kind of like, cool, I'm entering in another little mini season of waiting and just trying to, I have a lot of availability at my disposal, and I don't think I wanted to waste it. And so I felt like, I'm in a season of just trusting God and fully understanding, trying to discern his voice more in this, in being in like actually accepting the season of rest in a lot of ways. I think I struggle with, like, I think we can kind of make busyness I guess not an idol in our life, but in some ways, like, people celebrate busyness.
Yep.
And it is good when it's like, yes, I do. There are things that's great, but I think I wanted to kind of be very intentional with this season of rest and respect it and give it the celebration as much as the busy times. Everyone's like, "Oh, you're crushing it. You're so busy." It's like no one ever says like, "Oh, you're crushing it. You're resting really well." Like no one says that. And so I feel like in this time of like rest and reflection and family time and just wanting to just also give that its dues and, reading my Bible more every day. I'm actually, this is the first year I've ever done this, but my wife has done Lent a lot, in the past. I've actually never done it. I just was like, I've never celebrated Lent, and I'm doing it this year. I'm fasting from, television, which has been, we knew it was the right thing to fast because we didn't want to do it.
Yeah. That's how
I'm like, I don't want to do that, but I'm like, so we're not, it sounds silly, but it's like not watching TV. Mm-hmm. It's made me like, cause it's so easy to just like, at the end of the day, just turn on TV and, let your brain melt. But it's just kind of like, no, I'm going to read my Bible, going to pray, going to just try to give myself some space to, I feel like that's where God really likes to talk to you, is when distractions are away and they're gone. And it's like, just, it's just you and the Lord. And it's like, I'm just trying to be a better listener in this time. So I know it was a loaded answer, but I feel like that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to, eat better, be good with the stillness of life and try to hear from the Lord, because when things do get busy again, I still want that peace, I don't want to take this time for granted, because when we get busy, you take certain things for granted. And I want to take this season into the next season and see how much better I am.
Wow. That's so good. I think it was Corey Ten Boom who once said, if the devil can't make you bad, he'll make you busy.
Yeah. No,
and,
it is
something valuable in that rest, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's, there's still things I'm doing, but I'm trying to prioritize, trying to enjoy the quiet.
Yeah. I love it, man. Dude, David, thanks for spending some time with us on Worshipology, sharing your story. I feel like I got a new friend out of this, and it's been amazing just kind of hearing just how you've journeyed through this bass Nashville life that God has given you, and I think the best is yet to come for you, man.
Oh, thank you so much. This was awesome. Thank you.
Dope, dude.
I'm gonna stop.
Look at that, 1 hour right there,
right on the dot.